Thank you, Reverend Everardo Gonzalez. You can begin.
Good morning, New Thought Spiritual Center. I'm just so grateful to be here, and I want to start with just a little gratitude and thank each and every one of you for inviting me here today. But I also want to thank each and every one of you for your heartfelt prayers that you sent out a couple of weeks ago. I really felt them in my heart. Thank you to Nick and Joseph, the prayer chaplains, and all the members of our community. I also want to thank Mark Fowler, Reverend Mark Fowler, for his prayer. It's always nice to know that people within the community support you, so I appreciate each and every one of you. Thank you so much. So now experts have shared with us on TV about the pandemic that New York State has been in a different phase. And we kind of already know that because we've been able to go to some of our favorite restaurants and eat outside. And we've been able to get rid of our COVID hair by going to our favorite beauty salon, but we're still going through the pandemic. So the question is, now what? Now what do we do? What do we do now? Well, the now what is that we have a choice more than ever to live our amazing truth. And we know that because we know what life used to be prior to COVID. Like the simple things of just going up to a friend and giving them a hug, or going to a Broadway show and sitting in the audience and watching live theater. Those are the simple things that we appreciate even more today. And there's many more. And the other thing is, we know in our heart that we want to live in a better world. We want to live in a better world. And that energy is in our heart. However, what if we're not feeling so amazing because of the pandemic, or we're still going through with it and we're unclear of our direction? What if we're not feeling so amazing? Well, it's okay for us not to feel amazing, because that time allows us to understand ourselves, to understand each other, to process, to heal, to transform, to get clarity of how to move forward. At the same time, if we stay in that phase of not feeling good all the time, then what happens is that we end up disempowering ourselves. We discount our own power. And some of the ways we do that is by doubting ourselves, with worry, with fear. And sometimes we even get creative without even us knowing that we're discounting our own power by shifting the energy outward, so that we don't have to work with those dreams that we were born with, or those intentions and goals. And we do that by blaming others out there, because it's easier to do that, criticizing this person or that person, because that's easier than working with our own dreams, our own goals, our own intentions. Now that is discounting our power. However, what we could do is think about processing so that we can empower ourselves and know that there is another way of being. And that is to live our amazing truth. And that is our topic today, living our amazing truth. And what I envision within our conversation is to explore ways in which we can stay on track to live our amazing truth in this phase and beyond. So in the Oxford Dictionary, the word truth is defined as a meaning. It's accepting a fact or belief as being true. Again, the Oxford Dictionary shares, truth is accepting a belief or fact as true. So the question for ourselves is, what are we believing as true? What are we believing as true? Are we believing the stories we tell ourselves to discount ourselves from not moving forward? Or are we believing that urge, that desire of living our amazing truth? Now, let's break that down a little bit. So if the meaning of truth is to accept a belief or a fact as true, then that means we have the power to believe. The power to believe. Charles Fillmore, co-founder of Unity, shares that our power to believe is also our power of faith. And that is the perceiving power to shape what's possible as being real. Again, that is our power to shape what's possible as being real. Now, I love the definitions of the Oxford Dictionary, and I love the definition of Charles Fillmore, and that's great stimulation for the mind, but I also want for us to know it, to demonstrate it. So we're gonna demonstrate it right now. So let's take a nice deep breath. Breathe in and breathe out. And then think of a time in your life, in our life, that we pursued. Think of an opportunity that we pursued that brought us so much joy, so much success, and bring that opportunity to your heart and to your mind. And it could be anything. It could be something as simple as planning your favorite vacation, or completing your garden this summer, or starting a new job, a favorite job of yours, or starting a relationship. Whatever the opportunity that you pursued that brought you joy or success, bring it to your heart. And it could be something nostalgic, like being a child and learning how to ride a bike for the first time. As we bring that opportunity into our heart, let's think about what we did to reach that point. What choices did we have to make to reach that point? What risk did we have to take to reach that point? And take another deep breath. And then think about how we made that experience possible in our mind. What did we have to do to make that experience possible in our mind? And then think about how we had to reach that point of making that possibility in our mind being real, so that we can make it real in our physical realm. And maybe throughout that adventure, we fell a couple of times, or maybe we took a wrong turn here or there, or maybe the outcome was different than we expected. It was better than we expected. And somehow we stayed on track. We stayed on track, and perhaps we had fun. Imagine that. What if in that mindset, we were anticipating that joy and success as a way for us to unblock the limitations so that we can pursue and fulfill our amazing good, our amazing truth. So what we just finished doing, and you can give yourselves a hand, is that we remembered a time in which we were using the power of faith, the power to believe, from a higher mindset. Now imagine being in that anticipation of knowing there's more success, more happiness. Kind of like being a child sitting on the edge of the bed, listening to your favorite story being read by your parent or guardian. And you're just listening to the story, and it's a story that we've already heard before, but you're listening to it as if it's the first time, and you're just waiting for that next amazing part in the story. You're that child that says, what amazing thing's gonna happen right now? What amazing things are we gonna do right now? Imagine living our life as that. And we can, because we've done it over and over and over again. We're just not aware of it. So as we explore the power of faith, of living our amazing truth, let's think about living our amazing truth from a higher mindset. So you're probably wondering, well, how do we do that? Well, one of the tools that we use in some New Thought communities is metaphysics. So for those of us who are new to metaphysics, what metaphysics is a way for us to understand our truth, the truth that's in our heart, beyond the physical realm, beyond the physical limitations. And one of the ways we can do that is with our experiences, but also with stories. So here's a story that I want for us to embrace so that we can reveal a tool to reveal our amazing truth. Now, within every story, every character, every person, everything represents an idea. And because they represent ideas, our mind is filled with unlimited ideas. Therefore, the connections we make is based on our awareness and based on the beliefs and facts that we believe as truth beyond the physical realm. That means the heart. So before I begin, I want for us to sit on the edge of the bed, being that child, and listening to a story as if you heard it for the first time. And then think about listening for that next amazing moment. And so the story is one of my favorite stories, and it comes from scripture. And it's the story of David and Goliath. And the reason I chose it, because I believe it's relevant to our world and possibly relevant to our own lives. Now, in the story, there's two groups of people. We have the Israelites on one hill, and we have the Philistines on another hill. And because they're on two different hills, metaphysically, what that represents is two phases of mind. Now, the Israelites represent all of those ideas that propel us forward to our greater good. Now, the hill where the Philistines are, that represents those ideas that kind of pull us away from our greater good, like doubt, worry, and despair. So in the story, there's this huge giant, and his name is Goliath. And he's coming down where the Philistines are, those limited beliefs. So Goliath represents our old belief system, the giant. That old belief system comes down. He comes down that hill and he roars to the Israelites. Send me your best man, for whoever shall win shall serve the other. So here's a great reflection point for us. So are we going to serve our Goliath, those old beliefs, or are we going to serve the ideas that propel us forward? Now, in the story, none of the Israelites stepped forward. Great reflection point for us. Sometimes when we're pursuing a dream, a goal, or intention, it's very hard for us to step forward when that old belief system shows up. So here's the great news. The great news is, as the story unfolds, one of the Israelites steps forward, and it's the person that you least expected. And it's a small statured boy, and his name is David. So now David goes to the King Saul, the king of that time, and asks for permission to bring Goliath down. So King Saul looks at him up and down and sees that this boy is a small statured boy. And he knows that Goliath is this huge, monstrous figure. So he tries to give him all this equipment, all this armor. And David turns around and says, that won't be necessary. I have all the power that I need. And so, as the story unfolds, David grabs his slingshot, his pebbles, and most of all, his power to believe, all the power that he needs, and he brings Goliath down. So what does this story mean for us? Well, we already know what Goliath represents, our old belief system. Now, David, the things we can learn from David is a couple of things. One is that David was able to bring Goliath down with mastery and with preciseness. And how we can relate that part of the story is that in our own lives, is that we have great things that we're good at, whether it's making the perfect marinara sauce, or whether it's your job, or whether it's a relationship you're in. We all have great things that we're masters in, that we do with preciseness. But the greatest power that David demonstrates in the story is the power to believe from a higher mindset. And we all have that power. The other thing is the word David represents love. And what that means is that desire within our heart, that truth within our heart is possible and real with our power of faith. So we can bring that teaching into our life. And what's even so amazing of this story is that later in scripture, David's courageous power of faith is what anoints him as king, which means that we can be rewarded beyond our expectations as we pursue our dreams and goals. So this is a great story for us to hear, to listen to be inspired. But how do we apply this into our life? Well, that's where I want to go right now. So let's think about maybe a time where you felt pursuing a goal, an intention, or a dream. Maybe it's this moment right now, but we have that old belief system show up. What do we do? Well, one of the things that we could do is to see the awe in our Goliath, AWE. And I'm going to illustrate those 3 points. So let's envision our old belief system kind of like a mountain. And as we envision that mountain, we know that it's going to take a little bit more energy going up that mountain than going down the mountain. And listen, I am no expert hiker, but what I do know as I'm getting older is that it's harder to go up a flight of stairs than to go down the stairs. And I'm sure some of us here can relate to that, right? So the energy that we're going to need to go up our Goliath, our old belief system, is the letter A in awe, which is anticipation. And that anticipation comes in many forms, whether it's encouragement, praise, gratitude, prayers, meditation, doing something you really love. The reason why that source of anticipation is important is because it's going to uplift us to the very top of the mountain. And when we reach the very top of the mountain, we get to reach the second letter, which is the W in awe. And that W in awe is the willingness to keep going forward. And the reason why anticipation comes first is because that allows us to reach the top. And when we're on top of the mountain, we can see in every perspective. We can see from this side, that side. That means that our perspective expands. We can see more opportunities, more possibilities, and we gain hope so that we can have the willingness to go forward. And the last letter of the word awe is the E, which is to express that vision, that mission, that goal, and that intention. So as a recap, it's AWE. Anticipate, willingness, and express. What's so beautiful about applying this teaching in a practical format is that once we're on that top of the mountain, we recognize that our Goliath, our old belief system, is no longer an obstacle that will prevail us. It's a mission that will prevail us. Now, I love hearing all these teachings and I love hearing different speakers speak, but the most powerful part of hearing an inspirational talk is when the speaker demonstrates the teachings. So I'm going to follow that wisdom. And here's how I applied the awe in my Goliath. Right before COVID, way before COVID, I had the dream, the vision, the mission to become a senior minister at a spiritual community. And then COVID came. And guess what came with COVID? My old belief system. And it sounded like this. Oh, so you think this is a good time for you to be applying for a senior minister position when everyone is closing their church? Oh, maybe you should do something else. Maybe you should apply for a different job. So that was my doubt. That was my worry. So what I did in that space of not feeling amazing is I processed so I have a better understanding of myself, others, and the world. And what I did during that time is the A. I anticipated, I encouraged myself. And the way I did that is by volunteering. I worked with others who were having a hard time during the pandemic. And that gave me the encouragement to go up that mountain, reach the top of the mountain, and that's where I am right now. I can see all these possibilities. I don't know the outcome, but I'm on the top of the mountain. And I do know is that I am going to express and execute till the very end because I'm more committed. I know where we were before pandemic and I know where we want to be. So I believe this teaching is something that we can all apply because we all have that power to believe, the power of faith. And maybe in those times when we are not feeling so amazing, the one thing that we can remember is to recognize that we have a tool, because this tool will allow us to anticipate joy and success, which will break down our limitations in those moments so that we can be at the top of the mountain and have the willingness to keep going forward. Thank you so much.